I coded Herobrine back into Minecraft a few years ago, and he corrupted my world, so I kicked him into the void, and I think a small part of him somehow survived, escaping to the infinite snapshot. I chased his ghost to a stronghold filled with portals to all types of dimensions. That's when he made his own unstable portal that sucked us into a world I've never seen before, the world of Enshrouded. This video sponsor, Herobrine must have infected my whole computer and brought us to this open world survival game filled with new challenges and bosses. This world of Embervale was visited by a mysterious wanderer that caused a thick shroud of fog to sweep over the land and corrupt it. Can you help me save this world? You can play on your own or with up to 16 players. Freely explore, dig down, and build up something incredible. It has a revolutionary voxel building experience with no limits to your creativity. You can click the link in my description to buy Enshrouded today. And as for me, I'm gonna spend the next 100 days here trying to survive, stop Herobrine, and figure out a way to get us back to Minecraft. Day 1, I teleported into this vault with nothing in my inventory. As I searched for a way out, a friendly little light led the way. I was greeted with a blinding light, and as my eyes adjusted, I saw a beautiful world scattered with ruins, and possibly several threats. I followed a path down the mountain, finding a torch and some bandages, along with this cave that seemed to be the only way down. Inside, I found some grenades that revealed a chest with a hatchet inside. Now I felt ready to take on anything in this cave, or so I thought. That's when I found Herobrine in a thick shroud of fog. I jumped down, and it felt instantly hard to breathe. Herobrine had disappeared, but I was not alone in the fog. I fought my way through these shroud zombies, and soon found a way out of the cave. Then I immediately failed to tame a wolf that almost killed me. I quickly crafted myself a shirt and found more fog. After being ambushed in a dark cellar, I added another weapon to my collection. Soon I felt close to suffocating, so I ran out of the fog. Turns out the zombies of this world can go into the daylight. As I continued to explore, I was shocked to find another human. She offered me some food, but said I had to cook it myself. Then she ran away before I could ask her anything. I searched the camp for more stuff, got myself a shield, along with a magical wand, and a staff that I couldn't figure out how to use. Then, like the Minecrafter I am, I tried to punch down this tree, which took longer than expected. Then I collected some rocks and established a place to build. With my crafting table, I made a proper axe and a pickaxe. Now it was time to build a foundation for my base, along with some storage. And as the sun began to set on day 1, I quickly put up some walls, not knowing what to expect for the night. I placed down some stairs to see what was out there, and it was really dark. As the moon came out, curiosity got the better of me. The world looked beautifully terrifying. I remembered seeing a bed in one of the tents, so I tried my best to sleep through the night, hoping nothing would attack me. I spent the next 2 days upgrading my starter base by clearing the land, gathering resources to expand the foundation, and craft a bed. I also crafted a ceiling and figured out how to place one block at a time. I was interrupted a few times, and I did get a little distracted digging a cave, but soon the foundation was complete and I had an outer wall to protect my base. This looks straight out of Minecraft. I added some torches and felt much safer on the 3rd night. Day 4, I collected some more food, like berries and honey, but had some competition when hunting rabbits. Then I had a similar experience hunting goats who don't drop any meat. I chased one goat to this bridge, but didn't have a way to cross it. At least I found some arrows and a health potion by there. And after cooking my food, I got some water from the well. The following day, I found that girl from before. I followed her to a cliffside where she used a grappling hook to escape. So I grabbed some more materials to craft myself a bow and my own grappling hook. Up top was a scavenger with a powerful crossbow and his pet wolves, which I blew up with some TNT, revealing a chest with my next weapon that I almost died when testing out. Day 6, I was able to finally cross the bridge. I spent these next 2 days exploring and found a lot more scavengers. I tried my best to sneak up on them before I was swarmed out of hiding. After defeating the guys outside, I entered another vault where I faced an adversary that almost killed me. Almost. They were hiding a powerful ring, but I really needed armor. Fortunately, that's when I found another human, a blacksmith who helped me craft a set of fur armor. Day 8, the blacksmith told me about a source where the fog was coming from. I cautiously headed down into the fog, where I thought I saw Herobrine again, but it was just one of his zombies. I also found some ammo for my staff, a 2-handed mace, and some giant bugs who were intent on eating me. The staff was powerful, but so were the monsters I faced the deeper I went. I was quickly overwhelmed when I made it to these springs, and after nearly dying, I turned back and ran for my life. I pushed through the last guy and ran on home. I took the next few days to recover from that fight and continued to upgrade my starter base. After enclosing my build, I added a smaller second story, opened up the inside, and added 2 bedrooms with safe firefly lighting, but then added 2 fireplaces for warmth, along with several windows for natural lighting. Next, I built a fence around the balcony's edge and added a temporary roof to the 2nd floor. By day 12, we had a nice little fort with warm bedrooms, a large common area, a balcony for patrolling, and a 2nd floor in case we find any more survivors. Day 13, we expanded our storage, constructed a kiln, and placed down a forge. The next day, I excitedly collected everything I needed, like metal and resin, to craft my next suit of armor, with some help from the blacksmith. Now it was time to train. I spent the next few days crafting bandages and practicing my fighting skills. I faced off against every opponent I could find, and also looked for more weapons, which led to facing more scavengers and finding another staff. Then I spent some time exploring the shroud and practicing my moves against the zombies. I also stumbled upon a red fog that turned out to be poisonous. Then I was curious what I could make with shroud wood and made some better tools. Day 18, I felt ready to go back to the springs and found a really cool sword. Then I fought monster after monster, testing out my new skills and my new sword. Upon conquering the springs, I realized the well was not here, but at least I found this cool bow. I had to go much deeper into the fog and face some tough adversaries, but I managed to fight my way to the well. As I delved into the abyss, I thought I saw Herobrine again, so I quickly pursued and found something much bigger. I tried to keep my distance, but he could still reach me, so I tried to chop him down while dodging his powerful hits. I couldn't dodge them all, but with one lucky swing, I managed to emerge victorious, getting his head as a prize. Then I got to work at chopping down this shroud root, and once it fell, I could breathe normally again. On my way up, I found a fire wand, and was happy to see some of the fog dispersed. As I left, I found a new magical foe to test out my new wand on, and fire is really good against the shroud zombies. The night of day 19, I returned home, but the blacksmith was not that impressed. I think he was just mad because I forgot to make him a bed. So I spent days 20 and 21 adding furniture to our little fort. I also upgraded my fire with something the brute dropped. Then after adding a few more lights, I began building a proper roof for our base when I noticed I was being spied on. I quickly pursued seeking answers, and I don't think she knew I had a grappling hook this time. I asked her what she wanted from me, and that's when she turned and jumped off the cliff. I quickly rushed to the ledge and watched her glide safely to the ground. Unable to follow, I continued to work on my roof, trying my best to finish it before sunset on day 22. You could definitely tell it was rushed, especially the part that wasn't even connected. So on day 23, I fixed the roof, finally completing my starter base. Then I had to craft my own glider, climbing to the top of my base to test it out. The next day, I flew down to where I assumed the girl went, but snuck up to find some scavengers, and completely blew my cover with some grenades. This place was packed with what seemed to be a whole raiding party, so I picked up one of their scythes and tried a new fighting technique. I also tested a new theory with my wand, and it was so epic. With no luck finding the girl, the blacksmith told me to climb the ancient spire to get a good view of the surrounding area and find more wells to stop Herobrine. I was welcomed with a teleportation pad that brought me to a higher level. This place was filled with puzzles and several dangers, which immediately maimed me and got more dangerous the higher I went up. I'm not the best with timing, so I took several hits, and after almost dying several times, I managed to find some loot. But the real prize was the view. The place I spawned at looked so small from up here. I also noticed the house I missed at the bottom right. Then, against my better judgment, I jumped off the tower and started free-falling to preserve my stamina. But I probably didn't need to do that. Day 27, I flew to the house I missed before, and it was locked. So I did what any reasonable man would do, but only found a cool ring inside. That meant she must have traversed through the fog. The blacksmith said there might be another survivor imprisoned out this way, but all I could find were ruins, including this large temple with a beautiful courtyard. And that's where I found my first skeleton, who did look much cooler than the ones in Minecraft. It's also where I found out that you can grow your own crops in this world. I didn't want to take too much in case someone actually lived here, but soon the sun was setting, so I went inside to get some rest. Turns out somebody was living here, and she was not happy about me intruding. After apologizing, I asked her name and why she was spying on me, and I'll admit, me randomly showing up one day is a little suspicious. So she said I could earn her trust by clearing out this well that I did not see before. I wondered if she knew I spawned Herobrine and caused this world's corruption. Either way, I was determined to clear these wells and save this world from Herobrine. I fought my way deeper into the well, not knowing what to expect. I had to fend off hordes of countless zombies, but fortunately no boss this time. Then I cut down the shroud route and was instantly attacked by more monsters. But this time I cleared less fog. It looked like I would have to clear a lot more wells. Oh yeah, and when I got back to the top, the girl was nowhere to be found. So I set out on day 29 to look for another vault the blacksmith mentioned, finding it guarded by scavengers with grenade launchers. I gave them a taste of their own medicine, but almost died in the process. As I fought my way through to the pod room, I realized this place was way bigger, and also had some traps with loot that I already had. And after a few more fights, I found the alchemist. I brought him back to base, and he was able to make a lot of magical stuff, including health potions. Then the blacksmith showed me how to enhance my weapons. I spent the next few days climbing the tower and flying in the opposite direction per the alchemist's request. He knew of another vault this way, where his friend was captured by something new. After nearly falling into the red fog and fighting off several more wolves, I thought I saw a bear in the distance. Turns out I found what the alchemist was talking about, but these beasts were no match for my fire wand. Then I took a more stealthy approach until I found what I thought was their leader. Once he was defeated, I entered the vault to find some scary new defenses, which I managed to roll through and swing over, finally rescuing the hunter. While she went back to base, I went to search for the true leader of the beasts. She promised me the location of better armor if I can manage to defeat him. After sleeping in that house back there, I thought I saw Herobrine again in in this reddish blue fog, but it was just as poisonous as last time. Next, I found a new bow and got the idea to climb another tower to find the nearby arena where the beast boss is located. There were a lot more spikes here, along with lava, electricity, and pain. It was also a real test of endurance and pain tolerance, but eventually I succeeded and made it to the top, where I spotted the arena, but also a lot more red fog. Refueled and refreshed on day 35, I headed toward the arena. The real leader was a lot bigger than expected, and more outspoken too. Wasting no time, he jumped toward me, smashing the ground as I rolled out of the way and tried my best to counter, before quickly changing to ranged weapons. That's when I realized the other guys were healers, and a lot faster than they looked. Every one of my attacks felt useless, but his definitely weren't. I ran away to heal up, and he dove at me another time, nearly killing me this time, so I made a break for it and ran for my life. That night, I was glad to return home and find the hunter safe and sound. Then I sat by the fire a little traumatized. Day 36, my new friends told me to strengthen the flame inside my base, because it would make the fog a little thinner and help us establish a new base. Day 37, I wanted to find a place to build a more permanent base farther away from the shroud, and other than this little scavenger camp, these hills were relatively safe, except for a few poisonous spiders. I found this cute little farm that we could claim as our own too, and that night I established a new base. Day 38, I began clearing the land of all the trees and spider eggs, and once that was finished, I used grenades to speed up the process of ruins removal, but then found out my pickaxe wasn't strong enough to break it anyway, so I had to collect a lot more grenades over the next few days, but eventually the ruins were low enough to be covered by the foundation. Now I just had to clear out the giant rocks in the way, and this was actually a very satisfying process, and now I had plenty of materials to cover up what was left. I began by encompassing my fire in stone platforms, then plotted out how big the foundation would be in all directions, and on day 45, don't tell anyone, but I used thin blocks to fill in the middle of the foundation and save materials. Now the platform's done, but some spiders might spawn underneath. After failing to get on top of the platform, I added some stairs and tried to figure out which pathway to use, settling on the same ones you can find around here for now. On day 46, I built a temporary residence, adding in 4 beds and moving everyone here. I spent the next 2 days gathering materials to upgrade my storage, and noticed I could last a little longer in the fog. I crafted 8 magical chests and moved all my stuff over from the starter base, finishing the night by preparing for tomorrow. Day 49, I set out to fight the giant beast again, but stumbled upon a vault hidden in the fog. This vault was protected by much more powerful creatures. I think Herobrine had fun tormenting me in here. At first, I could not find the pod room, so I dug deeper and rescued the carpenter, getting him back to the base on day 50. The next day, I upgraded my shield, although I'm not sure how helpful it will be against the hunter's captor. Either way, I returned to their arena and noticed they had redecorated. It seemed like the further out I explored, the tougher the enemies got, so I would need the armor she promised for clearing out the elixir wells and putting a stop to Herobrine. And this time, I came with a plan. I began the fight by luring out the healers, defeating them one at a time. Then I could take on their leader 1v1. I used every weapon in my arsenal to slowly whittle away at his health, keeping my distance at first, but then getting up close and personal, although neither was really ideal. But eventually, he grew tired, and in one last enraged effort, he leapt at me, making me a little dizzy, but I pushed through the pain and slashed away until he finally fell over defeated. I took his head as proof for the hunter, found a better ice wand on him, and left feeling so accomplished as the sun began to set. Day 52, I brought the head to the hunter and asked her where I could find the armor. She told me to head north to the next tower, and that I would be able to see a fortified city from there called Pikemead's Reach. On the way, I got to test out my new ice wand and found another vault. There were no hostiles inside, but this was still a very dangerous place to traverse. I had to go through a lot of obstacles to find the buttons that opened the door to the main room, but one button was still missing, and while searching for it, I found dual-wield daggers, then found it near the start, and rescued the farmer. I made sure she made it safely back to the base, and that there was enough beds for everyone. They were getting really cramped in there, but I planned to build our fortress as soon as I got back with my new armor. I also hoped to find better building blocks while I was gone, and on day 54, I set out from the vault and made my way to the next tower. I took the wrong path to the tower, and stumbled upon some dangerous plant life, as well as a pack of boars that were infected by the shroud. This is a great example of why I needed better armor. I think this was the farthest away from the base I had traveled at this point, and we were just getting started. Soon after that, I was almost killed again by these pet wolves of these high-level scavengers that I came across. I really just wanted to avoid them, but this seemed to be the only way to cross a deadly river of red fog. I also had to dig my way up to the pathway that I should have taken, and inside the tower was some of the most dangerous defenses I've seen so far, but also some fun target practice, along with some new crafting materials and a very powerful sword that had a pretty cool design too. Then I shot a few more buttons and made it to the top where I spotted Pikemead's Reach. With probably not enough hesitation, I quickly jumped off the tower and soared across a sea of deadly red fog. Fortunately, I made it to the other side with little stamina left. Then I mined some copper ore along with some clay and realized it was going to be very difficult to get to where I needed to go. Hoping to spot a solution from that tower, I snuck on over to find a scavenger fortress. I began with a sneak attack before Before quickly realizing that these were some high-level scavengers, I tried my best to substitute my lack of armor with pure skill, but one foe was quickly replaced with 2 more, so I had to be smart about it and slowly separate them and take them out one at a time. Some of them were really hard to face, while others were not so bright. It took a few days to clear out most of the camp, so I spent my nights in this nearby abandoned tower. This guy was a little too powerful for me, so I had to trap him and just shoot at him. He does look very cool though, and he dropped his weapon. Feeling confident, I headed back into battle and tested out my new cleaver, but I was overexcited and pushed up a little too far. Finally, I made it to the tower to find an ogre of a scavenger who called in reinforcements that were a little too overwhelming for me. So I decided to retreat and ask my new friends what I should do. They said there was only one way to get through the red fog, so I restocked on health potions, crafted up some arrows, and on day 59, I fought my way through a scavenger base that was closer by. These guys were much easier to fight, so the only way to get through the red fog was defeating one of these creatures and dropping their head in the fire to strengthen the flame. But I did not expect poisonous acid to be thrown at me, so I tried to make it a fast fight, trying my best to stay out of reach, but the poison was getting really strong, especially when it was thrown up all over me. I'm just glad I restocked on health potions and powered through to the end. I spent days 60 and 61 collecting all the materials needed to strengthen my flame again, which meant taking a spark from another fire in a temple and dropping it all into my fire. Day 62, I made it back to the scavenger tower and saw that my flame weakened the shroud. Then I had to fend off a boar to sleep in the tower again, and on day 63, I fought through a few more boars and found a path to Pikemead's Reach. I could last even longer now in the shroud. This place had seen a lot of battle and was still very dangerous. I was ambushed by a very powerful zombie that could kill me in 2 hits. I ran away as fast as I could and looked for a place to hide. This was going to be a lot more dangerous than I initially thought. I found the boots pretty easily, but got swarmed by a bunch of bugs when searching for the pants. So I tried switching up tactics, shooting from a cliffside, thinking that they couldn't reach me, and was quickly proven wrong. I switched to bombing things from the rooftops, but it didn't do too much damage. I switched to my axe, thinking it would do better, but I was too slow, so I ran for my life, hiding in this broken down little building, which actually led down to some catacombs where I found a better ice wand, along with some more skeleton foes that were protecting the chest plate. Things got a lot more dangerous during the nights. I found this shroud root, and it was protected by a horde of zombies, and while hiding from them, I found a better version of my current sword. Then I found the pair of gloves by another shroud root that was also well protected by this well-armored zombie brute that I did not want to fight right now. So I went outside the city and found my strongest weapon so far. Then it was time to find the last piece of armor, the helmet, and the creepy castle behind me was the only place I hadn't looked yet, and of course the front gate was locked. So I went to find another way in, and was surprised to not be greeted by any enemies. This definitely looked like a place Herobrine would hang out in. Day 66, I searched through the castle, finding the helmet in one of the side towers. I had to go through a lot of trouble for this, but it was totally worth it. As I left the castle, I was greeted with a familiar face, and she had also upgraded her gear. She wasted no time in thanking me for saving so many humans, then told me to follow her. So I cautiously accompanied her through a side gate that led to a cliffside, where she gave me directions to better building blocks in the highlands. But she didn't tell me a way to get up there, so I forged my own path and made it to the top, where there was a beautiful view, along with a saber-toothed tiger that was even stronger than the zombies below. Fortunately, they weren't the best climbers, and I was able to take them out one at a time. Then I cautiously traversed through the highlands, finding more of those tribal beasts. They must have migrated from up here because they had a lot of settlements. Eventually, I found the tower I was directed toward, along with some weird spiky-looking pillars. The girl said I would spot a scavenger base from up top, so I slowly worked through all the dangerous traps, making it to the top that night. It's the place over there with the bridge, and the spiky pillars I passed was a rib cage. Hoping not to run into whatever that once was, I worked my way to the scavenger base and carefully approached. This was going to be a tough place to fight my way in, so I tried to sneak my way through and found a chest, unlocking a recipe for a new building block. I quickly fought my way back out, but was soon ambushed by some new threats. These guys were built like tanks and hit like them too. After defeating one of them, I tried to make my escape, but he was persistent on fighting me. His friend did fall to my blade after all. I quickly switched to my wand in a last moment of desperation and managed to defeat him. I don't think I'm ready for the highlands, so I started heading back to base and realized I could not breathe in the shroud well with my new helmet, but I was still glad to have new armor and determination to build my friends a safe haven. I took day 70 to plot out an outer wall, and then spent the next several days collecting all the resources needed to build such a large base. And on day 79, I got to work building up the outer layer of the wall and designing the base of the towers. Then I added some level flooring so you could walk on the inside of them. All this work took about 4 days, and on the night of day 82, I had the outer walls completely planned out with the front entrance. But before I could finish it, I needed to figure out how tall the fortress was going to be. So I spent day 83 planning out my build, adding in a porch and some new stairs. Day 84, I plotted out the bottom floor of my base, built up the walls, and added some roofing to the middle part. Then spent the following days building up the second story, lighting up the inside of the build, and testing out different designs for the outer walls. I decided to add 2 different rooms to the second floor and went with wider merlins on the balcony. Did you know that's what they're called? I had to look it up. Anyway, I went with flintstone shingle roofs for the gardening room as well as the bedrooms. And on the back left corner, I added a little watchtower to give the second floor a little bit more variation. And on day 89, the main parts of the fortress were complete. Now we just needed to add some decorations to this place. Starting in here, I added chests to the two front rooms to make my storage easily accessible. Then going out of there and into the main hall, I put down workstations for all the rescued survivors. But there was still a lot of room to fill. I wanted to leave some nature in the middle of the base and added 2 sets of stairs to the second floor, where I added some garden beds for the farmer. Next, I added some proper doors and several windows around the base. And on the night of day 90, I lit up the upstairs rooms and furnished the barracks where everyone would sleep except for me. Since I built this place, I chose to make the watchtower room my own, adding in a new type of fireplace along with some well-earned trophies per the hunter's recommendation. Day 91, I finished furnishing my bedroom and added some benches to the front porch. I also added a dining area for everyone and some more depth to the front of the fortress to make it look a little more formidable. And now that the fortress was finally complete, I just needed to finish the outer wall. So I spent the next 4 days designing the towers, building up the walls, and constructing a pathway on top to connect all the towers. Then I added more merlins to the outer side of the wall, and after adding the finishing touches, I finished the outer wall on the night of day 95. Except of course, probably the most important part, the entrance, which I finished the morning of day 96. And now that this epic fortress is complete, all the survivors have a safe place to live that they can decorate as they please. It's so crazy, what was once spider-infested ruins is now a spider-infested castle. And while up in the hills, I was reminded of my main mission when I found another shroud route. So I fought off Herobrine's forces and removed more of his fog from the land. Then I set out to clear more wells in hopes that it would lure out Herobrine. To get a longer duration of time in the shroud, I tried switching to my old armor, but it did not work out that well. So that meant I was going to have to speedrun these next wells. So I raced down to the shroud route and was greeted by another armored brute before I could cut it down. He hit really hard, so I'm glad I switched back to my good armor. Then I had to keep running around him, slicing at his ankles until he finally fell. And I still had ample time left to cut down the shroud route. But on day 97, things got a little bit more difficult as I went to clear out the next well. I faced what felt like countless enemies, continuing to pour out of what seemed like nowhere. Although there was one group that was slow and close together, which gave me the idea to use grenades. Eventually, I made it to the shroud, but time was running out, and there was still a lot of enemies left. So I just went crazy, slicing my sword in every direction, fighting for my life as it got harder and harder to breathe. Then raced to cut down the shroud route with enemies still nearby, cutting it down just in time and fighting my way out of there. That night, I returned to my base and crafted some more health potions. The following morning, I heard some commotion outside, and when I went to see why everyone was out there, I found an unexpected guest who said she knew where I could find Herobrine. I couldn't figure out how she knew who Herobrine was. That was until she finally told me her name, Alex. So she was also from Minecraft? I had so many questions, but before I could ask any, she went to go mine for something helpful and told me to meet her where I found my helmet. Not knowing if I was going to survive this, I gave a final farewell to my new friends and headed back to Pikemead's Reach. Upon arrival, I dove headfirst into battle, trying to fight my way through to the first shroud route. This was definitely the toughest brute I faced so far, but I stayed persistent and kept my distance until it was just me and him. And when the first fight was finally done, I cut down the shroud route and reluctantly moved on to the next fight. A difficult boss is one thing, but being swarmed by countless zombies who all have a lot of health is very overwhelming. I cut down foe after foe until I was able to finally clear this town of Herobrine's corruption and was rewarded with a chest where the zombies came out of, finding this cool wizard's hat that made me want to try out more magic. But I had to meet Alex and face Herobrine in the morning, so in exhaustion I collapsed in a bed for the night. And on day 100, I went back up to the castle where I found Alex waiting for me out front. Herobrine must have heard me earlier and made this his base out of spite. Anyway, we went inside and Alex told me to distract Herobrine while she constructed a portal back to Minecraft. It was finally time to end all of this, but it wouldn't be Herobrine if he didn't have one last trick up his sleeve. I guess a dragon boss is fitting for the last fight. I quickly switched to my bow before being scalded by an eruption of blue flames. I tried to keep my distance, but it pounced from across the courtyard, nearly crushing me. So I tried switching to my magic, and he did the same. It was like a meteor shower raining down. With not much choice left, I ran in with my blade, and he swiped me with his tail. I was not confident I was going to survive. Then Herobrine made things worse by summoning bugs to keep me in place, so I could be engulfed in more flames. Fortunately, I finally found a weak spot that stunned the creature long enough for me to get a few hits in, but it didn't always work, and I was worried about running out of health potions. I also remembered to use my axe, which was a heavy hitter. The longer the fight droned on, the angrier the beast got, but he also grew more tired too. So I ran in, and with the last few strikes of my sword, I finally broke through his scaly hide and he toppled over defeated. Then I squashed the last of the bugs and looted my final boss. Then Alex told me she fought off a horde of zombies that was trying to join the fight. Now it was just Herobrine that remained, so I used the key I looted to unlock where Herobrine was hiding, and while I fought off more bugs, Alex constructed a portal that pulled us all back into Minecraft. And while we managed to cleanse this world from Herobrine, this world still needs heroes. Are you up for the challenge? Then buy Enshrouded today with the link in my description. There's still so much to uncover. They actually just updated their game game with the melodies of the mire, a beautiful new area with new quests, creatures, and building blocks. Also, you can play music now. Thanks to Enshrouded for sponsoring this video, and to you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like and subscribe. Thanks again!